Welcome to JustWannaQuilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. This is Elizabeth Townsend Guard. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School, and I just wanna quilt. Talk to Amy Newbold of Sewtopia. Sewtopia has developed into all kinds of things. It is a retreat. It goes different places. They have a shop. They do sew-alongs, and we talked to her about the development of the business. We've talked to her before, so this is our second conversation with Amy.
My name's Amy Newbold, and I'm calling from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Awesome. And you have a jacket on. Is it cold there?
Oh, yeah. It's freezing, and it's, oh, gosh. I'm trying to think what's the temperature. We have snow in the mountains, so wow. It's 42 right now.
Wow. We're still at summer. It's crazy.
I know. That's crazy.
We're yearning for fall. Okay. So you are the mad genius behind Sewtopia, yep. And you have, when we last talked with you, you were just about to expand to three retreats a year, yep. And then you also were doing a sew-along, and that's when I said, hey, would you be willing to come back and chat? So if people don't know who you are, we'll post the link to the first video so they can learn about you and your journey. We don't have to do that again today, but I just thought we'd say, so what's happening, what's new, what's going on in your life?
Well, so Sewtopia launched its third event, which I think was I think it was a good event, summer, but I don't think that we'll keep that third event.
Really?
So,
just too much?
Yeah, it's a good experiment. I think it was too much. And we also launched our online store, so we're selling fabric, notions, patterns, all that fun stuff that a shop would do. So
right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the shop. So tell us what. Did you feel like it was just too much to organize, or too much for your base? Like, what was too much about it?
I think I think we launched it. If I had to be completely candidly honest, I think we launched it at the wrong time of year. I feel like it was the week of when kids were going back to school, and I didn't recognize that, which is funny because I have kids. And then the second thing is that I think summer's hard for everybody because of the fact that they're doing summer vacations. Yeah. And if you actually look at like the sewing hobby, we don't really gear up until the fall to winter.
It's really interesting. We're like,
I do think it's funny because I do think people sew in the summer, but they're not. I don't know if a lot of people are sewing, so I don't know. But here's the funny thing about Milwaukee: I love the city. I love Milwaukee. I love the teachers. I love the event. Like Milwaukee, I was kind of like, oh, Milwaukee, and then I got there, and it's way better than Chicago. I felt like.
And really, why?
Yeah, the city, the food was amazing. The city kind of reminds me of Chicago because of the water running through it.
Yeah.
So I had that aspect, and you also had the architecture like Chicago does. But then you had it's not as populated as Chicago. So you're not hearing all the traffic, the noise, the screaming, the yelling.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it's kind of like a chilled version of like Denver, or I don't know, Portland would be the same. So yes, I do agree. Like my events, they take me to different cities and I love it. So I feel like that's a good experience overall. And we learned, this is the first Sewtopia where we didn't focus 100% on quilting. We did garment sewing and quilting. So both of those things were really good for our attendees.
Do you think that you'll continue to do the garment sewing since it's so popular? That there seems to be a lot of crossover right now.
I think I like challenging our attendees. So I would love to do more garment sewing. I love it. And garment sewing, I will have to be honest, you finish your projects faster, and you're just like, you have that sense of like euphoric like, oh my gosh, I just finished this project, and you wear it and you're right. Like, look what I did, you know, as where quilt would take a lot longer.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there like, okay, this took me months to make you. But then you get that euphoric feeling when you finish a block or when you finish, you know what I mean? And then,
right. It's just different. It's just a different rhythm.
Yeah, it is a different rhythm. So yeah. So that's what's going on in Sewtopia. So our next event is in November and it's in Boston.
Oh, have you been to Boston before for the Sewtopia?
No.
I like Boston.
I know. So I have, well, it's Boston Waltham. So people might be like, the attendees might like, it's not proper Boston.
And right, but Boston area.
Yeah, it's the Boston area. So we're excited about the Boston.
Now, are you guys going to go up to the New England Quilt Museum, do you think?
Probably not. I don't think so. But we did when we were in Milwaukee when we went to the Wisconsin Quilt Museum.
Very cool.
So that was fun.
Yeah. All right. So tell me a little bit about the shop. Like, what made you decide to open a shop? Let's talk about a little bit about online shops are a thing. There's a lot of them out there. But yours is special because it's really catering to the people that your base, right? So is that sort of your feeling, is that, or do you feel like it's more than that?
I think it's funny because we do focus on modern fabrics, and I would wonder, Elizabeth, talking to you, is how much of the pie is modern quilting versus traditional quilting?
I don't know. I'm curious too, aren't you? I'm really curious. I think it's getting bigger.
Here's the thing is, I think that I surround myself with modern quilters, so we think that we're bigger than we really are.
Really? You think so? Well, it's a question I'll ask. I'm going to market. So and we'll be talking to the fabric. I'm curious how much how big is it? How much are they selling? How much are they making? Like, how much of their time and energy is focused on modern quilting? The shops I go into, they have a lot. I mean, maybe it's just because I like it. So it's like what you're saying, like, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
It's so crazy. So anyways, so we, as a business, we needed another line of revenue because we can't do, it's funny because we threw this out there like a couple of years ago because Sewtopia was started in 2013 and it's 2018, right? So we're 4 years going into 5 years, I think. I think we can't successfully do 4 retreats in a year for revenue. So we are like, well, let's think about what another revenue source is. And it just makes sense that we would carry fabric, patterns, notions, and all that fun stuff. So this year in February, and our merchandise wouldn't even really generate revenue as well. It generates revenue, but not to the point where if somebody like myself quit their job to do. So we're like, well, what's a scalable part of your business?
Yeah.
To think about so that it can scale. The events don't scale. Like, the events are just they generate revenue, right. They're great. But if I was to say, hey, I needed a full-time job out of this gig, out of my business, then what would be another factor that we could add in?
Right.
So we're like, okay, let's add in fabric, notions, and all that stuff. And so that's added that in February.
Right. So I'm at your shop now. So you've got so you've got all kinds of things. You've got stickers and t-shirts and tanks, and that's all your kind of your logo kind of, and like your spirit of Sewtopia. And then you've got fabrics and notions. You've got a cool iron, and I suspect that the notions look like it's your part of your sewing long, and your bigger items are things you just really like. Is that kind of like...
So that's why we're like, hey, if we're going to support these brands, we can resell those brands too. Because a lot of people have a hard time buying. Well, I don't think a lot of people have a hard time buying, but it's like, hey, we saw this iron at Sewtopia. We're going to test the product, and then, we're going to buy the product. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's like they trust you because they know that you're putting up stuff you believe in. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So tell me a little bit, and then the fabrics. I got to go to the fabric part. I'm going to try not to get distracted. Okay, so tell me about the structure. What did you choose as the platform for the shop?
What do you mean? Like,
well, how is your shop running?
How is the shop running? It's running. It's like any startup. I think it's running. We're constantly doing marketing campaigns. We're constantly. I feel like I don't have the presence of Etsy. Like Etsy, people just know to go to Etsy and buy it, right? They can search, like, and so I think the harder way of what I'm doing is I'm trying to say to my followers and the clients and say, hey, you can buy that from us, and this is what promotion we're running, and da 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 da. And so I think that's a little bit different than going straight to the platform of Etsy and selling there.
Interesting. And you've got a couple of fabric clubs, so people can join that. How are you? Did you purchase all the fabric? How is the store actually function? Did you have to? Is it like
just like any store, you invest into the inventory and then you resell it.
So that's what you did. Yes. You invested in the inventory. When they buy it from you, they're buying it from you. It's not like a pass through to something else. You like purchased a whole bunch at probably wholesale costs, bundle them, send them out, shipping and all that. So did you have to, where's all the fabric? Where's all this being stored?
So Sewtopia has a office. We have an office in probably 20 minutes, I would say 15-20 minutes away from Salt Lake. We have, I think it's about a 900 square foot office space. We started out with a smaller office space last year, or the beginning, last year. Yeah, it was last October that we had a space because we need to store our event.
Right, all the stuff, all the sewing machines. And
we have 60 sewing machines that we need to store somewhere, you know what I mean? Crazy. And it's not going in my house. I have to.
That's what I was thinking. It's like one room. Don't open the door.
No,
not going to happen.
No, not going to happen. I feel like there is a balance between work and family, and you have to separate that balance. And here's a funny thing too, is my personal thing is if I rented a space, then I'm going to hustle even harder.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Space.
I get it. Because now it's like for real, right?
Right. And so I have a place to go to, and then I have a place to come home. So what we rented, like probably a 600 square foot office, and that started holding the fabric. And then the other office space was only 100 square feet to 200 square feet. And it had all the event stuff. Okay. So there was 2 offices, and then we upgraded our lease and we actually got a new space, moved all of the fabric over there, and that's about a 900 square feet, and that's about, I would say, 2 offices and then a main lobby area. So the lobby area has most of the fabric, but then in one of the offices we wanted to do an education part because there's an education component with Sewtopia, right? And then the other tiny offices where I house myself, my office, my sewing machines, and the events.
Now, are you open to the public? Could they come and buy fabric?
So that's an interesting question that I've been pondering lately is, do I open to the public? Because then you're becoming a brick and mortar.
Right.
You know, I do have some locals, they know where my space is and they come pick up their orders, you know.
They can come. That's
funny.
Yeah.
And it's like a more, gosh, I want to say it's like a more exclusive, like shopping experience. You just like, hey. But yeah, I think we're going to do a grand opening, and then we're going to have a couple of sew nights, and then we're probably going to be open 1 to 2 days a week, because once you open, somebody needs to be there.
Right. Then there's still more expense. So it doesn't help offset the cost because now have money.
Yeah, but I am literally there every day, Monday through Friday, and maybe some Saturdays and maybe some Sundays.
Wow.
As a business, it's funny because as a business owner, you're always like, I feel like you're the heart and soul of the business.
Yeah.
And so if you give up on the business, then where does the business get its heart?
Right, because you're driving it, right? Yeah, so there's it's constant, right?
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay, tell me about when we go to the front of the page of Sewtopia, it says, we appreciate all the support from our fantastic sponsors. And then it goes through a whole bunch of, like, you can click through it, and there's lots of them. So I want to understand first, what is a sponsor? Like, what defines a sponsor for you?
So a sponsor, they either well, we pick our sponsors. Like I said last time, we pick our sponsors. We pick who we want to be sponsors, and if they contribute anything to the events, and either money or donations, they're a sponsor.
Then they're on there, and then you keep them on there. Even like, are they on there just for life? Like, or do you
no,
take them
they're not
off?
on there for life. I do need to update that because of the fact that, like, we have. It's funny. Boston will be our 10th event, and we have, like, I've reached out to past sponsors that I don't usually normally reach out to. If they, like, from the first event in Salt Lake, I've reached out to those sponsors and continuing sponsors. And so some of them might drop out and it's like, hey, this isn't really our gig anymore, or we can't afford to do the sponsorship anymore, or, you know, whatever the case may be. Like Bernina is a classic example, is Bernina, right? They no longer sponsor our
right. You went to Juki.
Yep.
Right.
So yeah, that's what constantly.
And then in terms of, like, sorry, I got distracted by all the different sponsors. The sponsors help you understand who you are because it reflects sort of what is important to you all. Do you feel like the sponsors, like, how much is a percentage of what I guess what I'm trying to say is, what's that relationship? Like, clearly, like, they want to be on your website and they want you using the products. How much of it is that they're giving you free merchandise? How much is it money? How much is it just the relationship? Like what is for a larger, it doesn't have to be about your business per se, but sponsorship is a huge thing right now. And so the question is why? Why is sponsorship like that? And how does it, what role does it play in your business?
I think it plays I can't give you like a percentage, but it does play a huge part, right? So I would say if it was, and I don't know, that's the other thing. That's the other funny thing is I don't know, because as a sponsorship, let me kind of backtrack, is like, hey, you come to our event, you get a door prize, you get swag, you know, or they contribute to like the Michael Miller challenges. They get a fun challenge where they get 6 fat quarters. If I didn't have those as sponsors, what would my event be?
Right. So by giving you the merchandise to make it more fun, and also to, when you do the fat quarter challenge, are they giving you a discount? Like, how is that working exactly?
So Michael Miller will sit down at market, we'll choose the fabrics, and Michael Miller sends out the fabrics, and we're prepping and cutting and sending it out. And there's also a sponsorship dollar related to that. You know what I mean? So I think if it was just I think that's a part of the reason why you pay for a Sewtopia ticket, because of the fact that you have one person or a group of people taking care of those questions and those details. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we're handling all of that, so that, or you could just go you could just have a mini retreat with your friends.
Right. And it's different.
That doesn't matter. And so I feel like there is, like, if you go to QuiltCon, they're organizing the teachers, they're organizing the vendors, like, you know what I mean? The floor space, they're doing all of that, and they're having swag. So if you were to say that sponsorships and vending and all that fun, I think it does matter.
Yeah.
Like, it does play an integral part of the event, and your relationship with that sponsor is important, because you're like, hey, we want a symbiotic relationship where we're both promoting each other and building that brand, you know, building our relationship, because, you know, I think that's the way that each event should work, is like, you wouldn't have an event without a good sponsor, and vice versa. So So yeah.
Do you feel like when you pick the sponsor, like, do you feel like with the fabric companies, are they in competition? But you have a bunch of different fabric companies. So do you feel like it's okay to have more than one fabric company? And what are you asking from them? Like Alice and Glass versus Cloud9 versus Cotton and Steel versus Michael, you just go on. There's a lot, and they're all modern fabrics. But tell me a little bit about that. Do they get weirded out?
It's funny because I think that they know that they're competing in the same space. So we kind of put that off the table. Like, we're just like, we're not. But if I was to tell you, as far as, like, let's say Warm and Natural is our batting sponsorship, right?
Right.
But we're not going to ask Pellon to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or vice versa. You know what I mean? So, like, Aurifil is our thread sponsor.
Right.
We're not going to say,
you're not going to ask Superior or someone else.
Yeah, we're going to say, hey, exclusivity-wise, with your sponsorship, you get exclusivity. But with fabric, it's a different story because it's just kind of like, I think that they know we are with a bunch of other manufacturers, and so there's
something different about that, isn't there? Yeah.
That has never, ever come up.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like, because it's all, they know people, we buy a lot. So, I think there's a lot of crossover in terms of that people aren't like, I'm only buying Alice and Glass. That's not really how it works.
Yeah, they're like, hey, I'm buying Alice and Glass, I'm buying Tula.
Right.
I'm buying Andover, I'm buying Free Spirit.
Right.
I'm buying Robert Kaufman, and I'm buying Moda.
Yeah.
There's never been that friction where it's like, well, if you're going to have like Cloud9 there, then we're not going to be there.
Right.
There's never been that kind of.
And when they're sponsors, they've given you some sort of giveaway stuff for the event, or they've given you money to be one of your sponsors. And then often you also are now also ordering from them in terms of carrying it in the shop. So
but now it's like a whole different kind of relationship. You know what I mean? So now it's like, besides just being like, hey, we're going to try to promote your brand, but we're also going to carry it. Like, I'll give you a good example. Alexander Henry is not a sponsor, but I still carry Alexander Henry.
Interesting.
Because I believe in Alexander Henry's, like, I believe in their brand, but I just don't. I've reached out to them to be a sponsor, but there was no, like, I don't know, I can't remember, but there wasn't really a response from Alexander Henry to be a sponsor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, then but I still will carry Alexander Henry fabric because the art is amazing on cloth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yes, but now it's kind of a fun relationship now because it's like, hey, we've sponsored you.
Yeah.
And now shop and you're selling our fabrics.
Yeah, that's really cool. So it's like kind of growing up, like building and getting bigger. Interesting. Interesting. Now tell me a little bit about the sew along. That was the other thing that I thought was really interesting, because you did it with kits, didn't you? Did you do kits with it?
So our sew along is called the Freewheeling Single Girl Sew Along. It's a pattern by Denise Schmidt. She released this pattern, I think, 2 years ago. And so in the relationship, how it all started is Wendy, the Next Stitch in Australia, she reached out to Denise and said, hey, let's do templates for the Freewheeling Single Girl. And Denise was like, okay, let's do templates. And she sold a lot of templates, both in Australia and to the US. She sold, I think she did a shipment to QuiltCon last year or this year, because QuiltCon's in February. So people could pick up their templates. And then we became friends, and I felt like she's an online shop in Australia, and I'm an online shop in the US. And so we could be friends and talk about business without
being kind of competition. Right.
Yeah. That competition, and so we started just lamenting to each other about either like the manufacturers or what we had to do. It was just a good way to like communicate without like, it's just kind of venting the stresses of everyday life.
Right.
And then she said, I think you should carry the templates. The templates are made in Australia, and each template set takes about an hour to cut out of the acrylic.
That's craziness.
Yeah. So she said, hey, would you be interested in carrying the templates in the US? And I said, yes. And then I said, let's take it a step further. Let's do a sew along.
Yeah.
And she was like, and I was like, and let's wrangle Denise into it. And so the sew along baby developed, and we're like, okay, so we're going to do a sew along. And Wendy, like, bless her spirit and her heart, she's the one who like kind of organized the cats. And so she set down dates, and she set down like a communications plan, which is awesome because she's always like, I'm always following my comp plan. And so we sat down and we listed out who was in charge of what and who's in charge of communications. And since Denise is the pattern writer, and we wanted her input as well. And so we have over 800 people in the sew along.
Wow. That's remarkable, right?
Yeah. Yes,
and they all bought the templates and the product?
They didn't all buy the templates. They didn't all, like, there was no way we could produce everybody. There's not a rule of, hey, you have to buy the templates.
Yeah.
There is a rule of like, hey, you have to buy the pattern because
you have to buy the pattern.
We're sewing along. But like, here's the funny thing is Freewheeling Single Girl is a revised version of the Single Girl pattern. So if you look, there's two patterns. Single Girl's been out a long time. And I think it's Denise's take on the double wedding ring quilt, but with a more kind of, I want to say like a rebel kind of feministic movement of doing a single girl instead of like, you don't need to have a wedding or adult, you know what I mean? Right. So I feel like there's a great meaning behind the single girl, and now it's freewheeling single girl. It's more improv. Yeah. And so it's more of a modern take on her old pattern, like her old first pattern of single girl.
And so then you created a business relationship with the templates and the pattern to get a percentage of the sales from that, either a wholesale deal or something else. And that way everyone benefited from the increased sales in the pattern and the templates.
The templates and fabric. So and we also, right. And so we just it's kind of like, and funny, if you run a shop, you're always running if you're a brick and mortar or an online shop, you're always running some kind of campaign. I feel like either you're running a sale or you're running some kind of marketing campaign. But where I'm in operations, I always think of a marketing campaign to run so that it either bolsters. There's a community aspect with sewing, because I feel like I just started teaching up at the university intro to quilting.
Oh, how cool.
So I always say we go in a hermit hobby where we sew by ourselves, but then the social aspect is we take it out and we say, hey, look at what I created.
Right.
Or you give it to some. So there's always there's this like antisocial sewing. Right. Where you're not sewing with anybody. And then you take it out and you're like, hey, look what I did. And, you can see that in your Facebook group, they're like, right. Hey, I just sewed this. Look what I created. And you're reaching out to have that social aspect of the hobby. So
interesting.
Yeah. So we created this marketing campaign where we're like, hey, let's all sew along. Let's cheer each other on. You don't necessarily have to buy the templates. You do have to buy the pattern to participate. You do have to sign up for the sew along so that we can email you tips and tricks and along the way, and then we'll have prizes throughout the week and we'll just help you kind of motivate you to get to the next part of that step.
Right. Very interesting. Love it. And how important is making a profit on the sew along? Like, is that the motivation of, I mean, like how important is that the economics of it? Would you do it again? Does it have to make a certain amount? Sort of, how did you feel about that side of it?
Well, it's funny, but when you're a business owner, you're always trying to make money, right? So it's kind of like, but the community aspect of it is great. It's super rewarding. We are going to do another, not we as in Denise, Wendy, and we probably will do another sew along because we've gotten along so well. But after this one's done, Sewtopia is we're doing another sew along with another designer.
Very cool.
Because it's always, you're learning. It's funny because I'll give you an example. We did in the communication plan that Wendy issued out. I was looking at it like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, hey, I think we should do an Instagram live. And Wendy was like, I shot it over to Wendy and I was like, Wendy, we should do an Instagram live where we're showing them in like live feed where like how to do something. Like sewing the arcs to the outer background pieces because it's curved sewing, and not a lot of people, well, some people might not be confident in that, And so she was like, okay, I think we can do it. And so I said, I'll do mine Thursday and you do, since she's in Australia, she's like, I'll do mine on Saturday. And I was like, okay. So we both had, in the same week, we both had lives where we got online and we were like, hey, this is how I do it. And I showed 2 different ways of doing it. And she tuned in to mine and was like, oh my gosh, I never thought of doing it that way, is glue basting the arc instead of pinning all those.
Interesting. Yeah. Glue basting is great. Yeah.
She taught me something new. And then I also, when people looked or watched my glue basting, they were like, wow, I never thought of doing it that way either.
Yeah.
And so you're there's an aspect of learning from the sew along, cheering each other on. But yes, it is to get new customers. It is to further our reach.
Right. And do you see it influencing do you see it as also a way to get more people to the retreat? Is the end goal to get new people to the retreat, or is it just just one more revenue stream of growing the brand?
It's totally a separate thing. If they want to come to the retreat, it's awesome. They can definitely. I'm not in the sew along saying, hey, come to my retreat.
Right.
Hey, if you're interested.
You see them as separate activities that might cross over, but not necessarily. They don't have to.
Right.
Interesting. All right. So last question is market. So will you be at market this year? Will you go to Houston?
Yeah.
And what do you do at market?
I say that reluctantly.
Yeah.
And I know you can see me. I think when we did our last interview, I don't think I was on camera.
No, you were. Oh, we don't air the video, but but yeah, you're in your kitchen.
Oh, okay. It's kind of funny. I'm in my car and now I'm in my kitchen. I might just become an Uber driver. Okay.
So tell me, so we'll be at market too. So I'd love to see you in person. We're there for market and festival, and then we have a booth at festival for the first time. A nonprofit teach people about stuff booth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So tell me what you do at market. What's your strategy at market? Why do you go to market?
So primarily before I had the fabric and notions and stuff, I put that as a category because I was like, notions and stuff. That's kind of funny. I went to market to just have that's when all my sponsors would be at one place and I could just see their face and kind of connect with them, be grateful of what they're giving to our business because without them, I don't think we would be a business. So that was my primary reason of going to market. But now that I have the fabric notions and stuff, then yes, I'm going to market with a different I'm going to market for 2 reasons. Is 1, to make contact with my sponsors, and 2 is to order fabric for the shop.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. And Do you think you'll order while you're there, or do you think you're looking, or you don't know yet?
There are some. Okay, so just to let you guys know, and audience and all that fun stuff, is I meet with my rep prior. There's some reps that travel, and so those reps I meet with them prior, and then I will see the fabric that they're showing at market, and I'll order. So if they come to Utah, then I don't need to have.
You don't have to worry about it, but it's the ones that don't that you're really interested in. Yes. And I imagine with the notions as well, sort of interesting things that you see that you might want to carry in the shop.
Right.
Interesting. Well, this is so insanely great. I think that it's really fun to sort of watch you grow and sort of see what's happening. We're trying to figure out what we're going to be. So that's good. So it's also fun to sort of think about the things we don't want to be. I hear the work. I'm like, yeah, we're not that.
I know. I don't know if I could take that as a compliment.
Totally. In a good way. It's just a lot of work. I mean, I don't, people are always, it's a lot of work. And so I'm cautious about always adding more things to what we are. But yeah, I mean, I think.
Question: what are you guys? What are you?
Well, we're a group. So I think it's interesting. I think for my purposes, we're still an experiment. And I think keeping that in mind that we're trying to understand the quilting industry, and I'm writing the book, so that's good. I think the quilting army's grown. We're still small, but we've got 1,500, and we're now to about 1,000 to 1,500 people listening per day when we post. So that's, it's still small, but it's grown. We got to about 80,000 downloads. So again, respectable, but not huge. We did a sew along with Jen Kingwell pattern. We didn't contact her. Okay. We just did it, experience it. And we got about 200 people in the sew along. So that was, again, respectable, not huge. And I think we're just experimenting and understanding. What?
When we started our freewheeling single girl sew along, I think my goal was 150 people.
And you got 800. It's amazing. So I think we wanted to keep trying and experimenting. We've gotten some good sponsors. And now we're trying to, I think for my purposes, we want to sort of push it out more. We're not sure what that means exactly. We've got a very enthusiastic group. I think our only rule is to be kind, and that's an important rule. And inclusivity. It's a really, it's all about, everyone can be part of this. So I think it's a group. It's an experiment. And then we're trying new things. So we're doing a Wave Starter donation campaign for the project because the university has that. We have that ability, and it's free, and why not? We've starting to do meetups accidentally, just happened. Same with the sew along. I didn't really want the sew along, but they did, so it's all good. And so the Quilting Army seems to have a mind of its own, and so we're kind of trying to figure out how to sort of structure that. Also, I think we're very sort of pro-entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneurship professor. I'm an entrepreneurial professor, so I'm really about that as well. So I think how do we support little groups, individuals on their journey, on their beginning journeys, to want to do things. So we're thinking about how to support that in various ways. So yeah, so that's kind of where the project is. It's still a little, I like it being undefined. People keep asking us, what are we? And we're like, we're not sure. We don't really want to be defined. I mean, it's really just experimenting. We've given away some fabric. We've got people have given us stuff. We give it out. Usually I experience it, and after I talk with people, we usually give it out. We'll give out a lot of it at festival, the stuff we got over the year. I don't know. It's just a thing. And it's fun. And the people are super nice. And who knows where we just kind of letting the adventure take us where we're going and seeing where it happens. Because it's not a business. So that's really, we don't have that. We do have to raise some money because the university wants us to be self-sufficient. So we'll have to figure out how to do that. But it's not a lot of money, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my entrepreneurial journey so far. I feel like you're right. We do as an entrepreneur, you have to try something, and if it doesn't work, or if it does work, how do you grow from there?
Yeah, right.
How do you you know, like what would you do differently? And I feel like now that we're on our 10th event, we have things kind of in a system, a format that we can say, okay, this is what we do today. This is what we do today, you know? And so I feel like each day as we have more and more, just like even with the fabric, you just kind of learn.
Yeah, it's very cool. But I love your model, and it's so interesting to watch you grow. Now, do you think when you're at the events, you usually have like a local shop come, and will you take that over and have it as your shop then? Or what are you doing in terms of that part of it?
So I think for Milwaukee was our test baby. Milwaukee, we were the pop-up shop at the event.
Yeah.
And we obviously we need more inventory, but yes, it was a very successful weekend as far as revenue. So we were like, we set a number. We always set yourself a number, you know, and if you surpass that number, then you're like, do something measurable, you know, like if you're like, hey, I'm going to try something out. If you're an entrepreneur, right? Like I'm going to try something out and I'm going to set this number as my goal, and then learn from, if you didn't hit your number, learn from it. Cause that's like business 101, you know, like you're always having to do something that's measurable and, setting goals. And then if you hit that goal, then you're like, then you feel really accomplished. Right. So we were the pop-up shop, but for Boston, we are not the pop-up shop. We reached out to somebody local or close to the area, and they are going to be the pop-up shop. For Salt Lake, we will be the pop-up shop. That's the event in April with Sherry Lynn Woods and Karen Lewis.
That's great. Yeah, we interviewed her. She's awesome. She's amazing.
Yeah, and so she will be, both of those will be the teachers in Salt Lake, and we will be the pop-up shop for that location. And then for future events, we will try to be the pop-up shop for the event.
Will it depend on where you're like Boston's quite a bit of ways. Is it easier for merchandise to have it as somebody local if it's too far to travel, or does that not matter?
I don't think it matters.
Because you're already lugging so much. How are you getting everything there? How do you get because we have to, like, that was a thing. We have a booth now. So we have to get all this stuff there and all this stuff back. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm a law professor. I hadn't thought about that, right? So it's like every single thing is like, oh no, right? Like these are things that we have to think about. How do you get everything across the country?
Okay, so we have a really good relationship with shipping company, and we make sure everything's just packed on a
got it. So you just put it on a thing and ship it.
You're gonna stay from market to festival, right?
12 days, yes.
Okay, so it would be interesting that you should stay after the doors close and see how everything is teared down, put into their crates, labeled, shrink wrapped, and then it's gone.
Amazing. I can't wait. I'm really psyched.
So that's literally how we do our events too, is we start like they have until noon to sew, but most of the people are like, hey, we're traveling on Sunday, you know, and as they leave, we start packing up our stuff. We're busy bees and we're starting to pack. You were in New Orleans for
yeah, I just came by for like an hour or so. Right.
Yeah, but you saw us at like Saturday night, Sunday, we are starting to pack. Right. Starting to get everything back in boxes, back in their crates. And then we're Sunday, like noon hits, we play the closing song by Semisonic, I think. And then people are out of the sewing lounge, and then we are packing things up.
That's craziness.
So you just have to figure that out. You can either, I think a lot of people are like, well, did you put everything in a truck and bring it?
Right.
No.
I think that's what we're going to do because we're so close. We're only 6 hours away. So
it just makes sense if you were like, hey, if we're going to, or would you put everything on a pallet and shrink wrap that and send it over? Yeah,
and for us, we just have, so our booth is, it's called Just Wanna Sit. So we have a lot of comfy spaces for people to sit and hang out and sew and talk about their lives and learn about copyright. So we've got a lot of furniture that needs to go from, we shipped it all there. We bought it and shipped it to somebody a very nice person in Houston. And then we're just going to rent a truck. And me and one of my students, which I should not be driving a truck. This will be like used on some like litigation. Right. So, but we're going to drive it back on Monday. So there's a lot going on. So I don't know how you do it. I mean, this is like the things I won't do. This is really taking up a lot of time to do the booth. I mean, just figuring out what furniture took a really long time. Really stupid. But it was, we're like, should we go with the pink couch or the blue couch, right? So there's a lot of things. But we got it all done. It's ordered. It's on its way. We're done with that.
Good.
So that's good. Yeah.
It's funny, but I just recently purchased a button maker.
You did?
But the only reason I purchased a button maker was because I have a friend who's an eBayer. And he ran across a button maker, and I said something, hey, if you ever run across a button maker, let me know. And then he put that out there. He's like, hey, I ran across a button maker. Do you want it? And
how hard is it to do? Have you tried it yet?
No, but my another staff member, Megan, I sent it out to Megan, and she's going to try it. It's really, apparently the button maker that he got was fairly inexpensive because he got it at a thrift store, but it's fairly expensive online. Like if you bought it right out, it would have been like $260 for a button.
That's a lot. Right. You got to make a lot of buttons to make it worth it.
Even make it worth it. And so we make our own ribbons for the Michael Miller Challenge, and we make it out of the Michael Miller fabric. So everybody who places, like who wins, we say, here's your ribbon and your prize.
That's very cool. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, you are so entrepreneurial and you're so cool, and I can't wait. I do hope we run into each other, or we can say hi during market, because we will be there for market. Any other advice for me? Because first time I went to market last year, but we were brand new, and I was just trying to get them to come on the show. So that was pretty much the entire time. I was just like, hey, will you be willing to be a guest on a podcast that doesn't exist? And they were super nice. Everybody was like, yeah. And we've had great guests, you of course, but like we've had really quite amazing guests over the last 8 months. But now we're going for a little bit different, right? We're trying to sort of grow and do sponsorships and be more like experiment on that side of it. Any advice on how to approach them, or things that we should think about in terms of that kind of relationship?
So my advice is, one, always have what's your purpose?
Yeah.
Like it's easier for, hey, I'm an event, and this is my demographics.
Right.
That's always a good thing to list out your demographics. And then even if you had a one-page sheet, and say, this is our goal, and then hand it to them.
Right.
Or email it to you, because at market, it's always, market is a great place to network, but it's also their primary purpose as a manufacturer or a pattern designer or, a notions creator is to get their products in the hands of buyers.
Right.
So it's not, like, it's a good way to say, hey, I'm making contact. You know my face. I know your face.
Right.
Can I email you about my podcast or what my nonprofit is about, so that we can further our relationship?
Right.
So, and then they can say yes or no, but really at market, it's more of a, hey, this is where we're supposed to contact buyers of brick and mortars and online shops to buy our product. It's a little,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a little, like, I would say, my advice is to reach out and just be like, hey, my name's Elizabeth. I'm doing this podcast, and this is our goal. Can I talk to you in the future? Can I get your email address? And then
yeah, that's our, that's kind of where we're at this point.
I know.
And to see the people we've met already. So we've met a whole bunch of people. So I think it's also going back and saying hi and doing a little bit of Facebook Live or Instagram Live with them and saying, you guys are awesome.
Yeah. And then as festival is a whole different thing.
Right. It's totally different. That's just like crazy madhouse mayhem. Yeah, and Quilting has been super nice. So they've given us the booth, which is fantastic. And then also a space that's quieter so we can do interviews. So we'll be able to then take people to the exhibit space, and there's a little space where we can sit and chat with people. So we can do record some of the interviews while we're there. So that will be good too. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's like, and I think festival is a great part where you're like, hey, bring in your future listeners and like, hey, interact with us and get to meet the person behind the podcast.
Totally. Right. Yep. That's exactly it. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's all good. I adore you. I can't wait to meet you. We'll have to meet up. We'll be running about, and I'm bringing some of the quilting-army to help. So there'll be a bunch of us, which is good.
Awesome.
Yeah, so, and students, lots of students. All right. Well, thank you so much, and this is great. So we have to do this again. I like you in your car. It's great. I feel so grounded when I talk to you. That's the part that sort of I come away with is like I feel like better. Like yes, like I'm much more like a more human once. You know, I'm my entrepreneurial hat is like on straighter maybe or something. I don't know. I like chatting with you. Yeah, you're great.
That's good because I'm always like, hey, I might be sharing too much information, but whatever.
No, but you know what? I can send it to you and take a look. I don't think you are. I think you do a nice balance of giving insight into the entrepreneurial experience without giving away any trade secrets or compromising what you do or any of that. I think you really do a nice balance of that. And, you know, it's great. And Sewtopia is growing, and I love that that's, you know, we'll help on that part of it too. And get what you're doing out there, so.
That's good. Yeah. I do have a question that I don't want on the podcast.
Okay, well let me let's say goodbye, and I'll turn off all of the recording devices. So thanks again. Don't hang up. So you've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, and I'm Elizabeth Townsend Garr. If you like this podcast, keep listening. Also, we have a Facebook group. Come join us. We talk about a lot of things. We also have an Instagram account. And of course, most importantly, I really hope you get a chance to quilt today.